The Streete Files, a complete mystery short story, every Wednesday. File 47. Death comes to Fairmile House. 20 miles to the southwest of London is an ivory and russet-coloured neoclassical 12-bedroomed mansion at the centre of a 40-acre private estate. When Alan Tark had bought Fairmile House and its land 20 years ago, he was already named in the Sunday newspaper's list of the top British entrepreneurs. He had made his money from ordinary things that no one else cared about, because they're not glamorous. He started an office cleaning business straight out of school at 16, then expanded into waste management and street light maintenance. Then finally his big money spinner, sewage farms. All of these created a multinational that he called Tark Industries. In an interview with the Financial Times, he had coined the phrase that has come to define him, when he said that Tark takes away the dirt from our lives. The phrase was splashed across tabloid newspapers 3 years later, when his first wife, Elizabeth, divorced him, citing numerous affairs, and she stood on the steps of the High Court in London before a gaggle of press photographers and echoed her former husband's famous line by saying, "I decided it was time to take away the dirt from my life." Alan had married his second wife, Gracie, after a decade of being single, but any mention of dirt was absent from any press coverage then, as Gracie is the youngest daughter of Terence Frankham, who owns substantial interests in the media companies within the UK. Olivia Streete accelerates her red MG midget as she heads through the South London towns of Dulwich and Wimbledon, before reaching the outskirts of the village of Fairmile, in Surrey. She turns off the road and in through an arched sandstone gatehouse that has a room at the top. Only now does Olivia get a view of Fairmile House, a quarter of a mile away, at the end of a dead straight driveway. When Olivia's car arrives at the loop of gravel in front of the house, a woman in her 30s with dark hair worn up steps out of the enormous cream front door and walks over to her, while she's still in the car. "Miss Streete?" says the woman. "Yes, are you Rachel Langtry?" "I am. Can you park your car down the side so it's not showing? Alan doesn't like untidiness." Olivia drives around to the side of the house and parks by a wire fence to a tennis court, then walks back to the front door where Rachel is waiting. They go inside, and after the women cross a hallway with mirrors and gold leaf as its decoration, Rachel pushes a panel in the wall that hinges back to reveal a long corridor behind it, with several doors off it and windows that let the sunlight cascade down across the space. Rachel reaches a room on the left-hand side and indicates for Olivia to go in. It is 20 feet square and lined with light oak panelling. The woman picks up a folder from a large oak desk near the door and leans over to press an intercom box on the right-hand side. "Alice, 2 coffees, please. Many thanks." She doesn't wait for a reply. There are 2 red sofas at one end, and they sit. "You came recommended, but I can't tell you by whom. It was a personal conversation between Alan and the recommender." "Word of mouth is my most effective marketing tool," says Olivia. She smiles, and the woman returns it. "I'm Alan's business manager," says Rachel. "He has a raft of initiatives in play, but the key one that he needs your legal advice about is called Tark AI. It's an app run by an AI agent to manage waste and cleaning for local authorities. It runs the work allocation, monitors air quality, stock checks cleaning supply chains, and automates the recycling centres, that sort of thing." "I looked at the information you've sent. It all seems very straightforward," says Olivia. "Mostly contractual." "There's a test bed in one of the barns that's running a model of a local authority. Talk to Bob Mead, who's the estate manager. He can show you. You'll find him down by the farm buildings on the left-hand side of the estate. The door opens and a young auburn-haired woman comes in with a tray and 2 cups of coffee on it. "This is Alice," says Rachel. "She can help with whatever you want." Olivia and Alice smile at each other before the girl turns and shuts the door as she leaves. "Be careful around Alice," continues Rachel. "It's not her real name, which is Elizabeth, but that was the name of Alan's first wife. So Alan changed the girl's name when we recruited her, like a lord of the manor from history. What he says becomes law on his land here. This is his world." "Who else is important for me to be aware of?" says Olivia. "Does the second Mrs. Tark play an active role in the businesses?" "Why do you ask that?" says Rachel. "She's one of the Frankham family, and they're famous for passionate and fiery personalities," says Olivia. "I just need to know if she should be part of the approvals loop, or whether that is just you or just Alan." Rachel stands and checks that the door is fully shut, despite it obviously already being closed. As she sits opposite Olivia again, she says, "This is confidential. Mrs. Tark is in charge now, to all intents and purposes." "In charge of what?" says Olivia. "All of it. Alan's lost his chutzpah, if I'm honest. His get up and go." "Did something happen?" says Olivia. "Not really. A slow decline. We've worked hard to keep it out of the media." "When did this start?" Rachel looks out of the window as 2 fluffy clouds are alone in a clear blue sky. Then she says, 4 years ago, I suppose. Soon after they were married." "How has he changed?" says Olivia. "Gets tired and angry, loses focus in meetings." "So my approvals loop for contracts is you, and you'll get them to Mrs. Tark for sign-off?" Rachel nods, and there's an uncomfortable pause, as though Rachel was just about to say something else, and then decided that she's said enough. "There's an office 2 doors down on this corridor, for you to work in." "All right, I'll get stuck in then," says Olivia. They stand up and she walks out, and along to the empty office for her use. She starts to review the documentation to establish the legal framework for Tark AI, and makes notes and changes to the outline structure, then sends it to Rachel on email, asking for comments. Olivia decides to go and see the test bed in the barn, to give her an idea of how it all works in practice. She turns left out of her office, as she saw a glass door earlier at the far end of this staff corridor, with lawns beyond it. The first glass door, though, doesn't lead outside, but into a vestibule. There's a second glass door to the gardens, and only one other door in this hallway. On this side door there's a wooden plate with the words "Gun Store" on it. Olivia tries the handle and it's open. She pokes her head inside. It's a 10-foot square room, lined with rifles, locked into cases. She looks round, then turns and goes outside. Immediately behind the house, the lawns stretch for 50 yards, dead flat. Then the land curves downward to a stream another half-mile further on. There's a formal Victorian garden behind a high wall to the right-hand side, and after a row of oak trees on the left, Olivia can see the farm buildings, and she walks towards them. As she approaches, she can see there are 3 barns and a stone cottage. One barn has hay in it, the bales piled up high, and can be seen through large open doors. The next barn is shut, with no clue to its content, and the final barn has a buzz of activity around it, and a man in his 20s, with a shock of fair hair, is having a heated conversation with a dark-haired man. As Olivia gets nearer to them, the young man storms away into the barn, and the dark-haired man turns to see her approaching. "Are you Bob Mead, by any chance?" she says. "I am," he says. "Who's asking?" "Olivia Streete. I've just started working for Alan. I'm a freelance lawyer working on the AI project. Rachel sent me to see your testbed." "Does Miss Gracie know you're here?" he says. "Does she need to know?" He nods. "Can you still show me around?" He takes a deep breath, in and out. "It'll be fine," he says. "I'll explain it to her. Come on in." He shows Olivia the test bed, which consists of a working model of a water treatment plant, a miniature sewage centre, and a clean water reservoir, all being run by the Tark AI software. Bob explains the stages, and she listens. Then they step back outside. "The young lad in there is Gary," says Bob. "I didn't introduce you because he's difficult. Knows technology, but not people. He's not important to your work anyway." "How's the project going?" says Olivia. And Bob looks worried. "My professional status as a lawyer means I can't share confidential information that may be of a sensitive nature. The more I know, the more effective I can be in my role for Mr. and Mrs. Tark." "Mrs. Tark's a challenge," he says. "Rachel mentioned that Mr. Tark has taken a step back from day-to-day business." "It's not the same now she's here. I've been working for Mr. Tark for a decade. He used to be full of life, not now. She's taken over. And don't trust that girl she brought in, the redhead. Alice, she calls her." "The housekeeper?" says Olivia. "She recruited her because she's really called Elizabeth, just to torture Mr. Tark and remind him about his first wife." "Well, that's useful, thank you." "If you need anything more," says Bob, "I'm here all the time. I live in the cottage over there by the barns." "I do have a question," she says. "There's a gun store up by the house. Is Mr. Tark a keen shooter?" "We have clays once a week down by the lake," says Bob. "Mr. Tark's still an excellent shot. He told his wife when they were first married." "And is she a good shot?" Bob looks doubtful. "She will be one day." Olivia smiles. "Well, thank you for the tour, Bob." She shakes his hand and walks back to the house. She pushes inside from the gardens to the long staff corridor and into her office to finish more of the documentation that is needed for the legal agreements. As she's reading a draft of one document, a light knock comes on her open door, and Olivia looks up. "Ma'am, do you want any help?" It's Alice. "Could I have a coffee?" says Olivia. The girl bobs a curtsy and turns away. 5 minutes later she reappears at the doorway with a cup on a tray, and she places it on the desk. "How long have you worked here, Alice?" 3 years, Mum. "Mrs. Tark recruited you?" The girl nods. "What's it like working here?" she says. "Good, Mum. Any concerns?" The girl frowns. "Of course not." "Well, thank you for the coffee. I don't need anything else." "Mum." The girl turns on her heel and leaves. By 5:30, Olivia packs up and walks to her car. As she starts along the driveway, she can see an SUV just entering through the gateway arch in the distance. The width of the tarmac is easily wide enough for 2 cars, but the SUV is travelling at speed and right in the centre of the drive. Olivia slows and pulls over to the left-hand side as a dark blue Bentley Bentayga hammers past her, creating a cloud of dust behind it. Olivia looks in her mirror when the SUV skids to a halt outside the house, and a blonde woman in her 40s scrambles out before running indoors. From her online reading, Olivia recognises the woman as Mrs. Gracie Tark. The journey back into London takes an hour and a half. Her daughter Poppy is working at a law firm this week in the City of London as part of her work experience in the legal industry to support her law degree at Bristol University. They eat rigatoni arrabbiata, then sit on the balcony overlooking the Thames to finish their drinks and talk about their day as the sun goes down across the water. The next morning, Olivia wants to get to Fairmile House early to break the back of the paperwork and get it all drafted. Her MG arrives at the top of the driveway just after 8, and her phone starts to ring. She stops and looks at the screen, then swipes to answer. "Hello, Rachel, I'm going to park at the side again." "Olivia, meet me at the back of the house, would you? I'll be on the bottom lawn, down the ash path, and beyond the big hedge. Don't go through the front door. It's locked." "Of course," says Olivia. The line goes dead, and Olivia parks her car. She goes around the back, in through the glass doors, and drops off her red Dior Toujours bag in her office, then retraces her steps out to the grounds. As she emerges past the big hedge to the lower lawn, she can see Rachel with a cigarette in her fingers. "Everything okay?" says Olivia. "Alan Tark. He's dead." "What happened?" "Shot," says Rachel. "With his prized Krieghoff clay gun. He's in the hallway, hence my telling you to come in through the back." "He's still there," says Olivia. "When did he die?" "No one knows, but Alice found him as she was on the early shift. She starts at 6 and lives in the house anyway." "How many staff live in?" "Only Alice and I do. The others are dailies," says Rachel. "I wanted to ask you, well, actually, Mrs. Tark wanted to ask you to help us." "To do what?" "Find out who killed him." Rachel locks her gaze onto Olivia. "Before the police get involved, Mrs. Tark is keen to not let this destroy us." "I can help put together the outline facts in preparation for a report to the coroner or to the police. It will likely be considered a suspicious death," says Olivia. "But it depends on the circumstances. Do you know anything else about what happened? Could it have been an accident?" "Alan was always very careful with the shotguns. He wouldn't have walked around with one loaded." "And the keys to the gun store racks?" says Olivia. "Who has those?" "I don't know," says Rachel. "Mrs. Tark may know. She's waiting for you in the main lounge on the first floor. There's a servant's back staircase off the staff corridor to get you upstairs." Olivia leaves Rachel and walks back up the ash path. She finds the servant's staircase and rises up through the building. This staircase comes out at one end of a hallway that runs across the entire width of Fairmile House. Olivia continues on until there's a set of double doors on her left-hand side. She looks into the room, and Gracie Tark is standing and looking out at the grounds. Next to her is a dark-haired man in his 30s, wearing a dressing gown. He turns as Olivia walks in. "Mrs. Tark, I'm Olivia Streete." Gracie raises her eyebrows to the man, but she says no words, and he walks away through a side door and closes it after him. The woman now turns to Olivia. She has blonde hair and penetrating blue eyes. She's wearing a cream Chanel suit. Olivia walks to her, and the woman inspects every inch of Olivia's face and clothes. "My husband was a great man," she begins. "His legacy is significant. This house, this family, is substantial and important." Olivia waits for more, but none comes, so she says, "What do you need from me, Mrs. Tark?" "For you to represent my interests and be discreet." "Well, that comes with the territory," says Olivia. "Anything you tell me won't leak. In fact, can't leak under client confidentiality rules." "Champagne?" she says, and turns to an ice bucket on a stand that is on the right-hand side of the room. Olivia declines, but Gracie tops up her Vera Wang crystal flute as she walks to a blue silk three-seater sofa on one side of the space, near to a run of floor-to-ceiling doors that show the land outside. "Sit," she says. They settle, then Gracie says, "I heard him at about 2 in the middle of the night, walking past my bedroom door. We don't sleep together." She looks at Olivia to check any reaction, but Olivia is careful to keep her face unchanged. "I went to my door and opened it," says Gracie. "Alan was there in his pyjamas. I said, 'What are you doing?' and he mumbled something about a break-in downstairs. I had no time for his senility in the middle of the night, so I went back to bed." "Can I ask you?" says Olivia. You just said senility. Was he suffering from a health condition? No, just my word for it. This may be important, Mrs. Tark. So let me press you on the point. Are you saying that your husband's physical or mental abilities were weakened? I ask because the coroner will likely ask you too, about your husband's health. Gracie sighs. There was nothing wrong with him, she says. We were drifting apart, to be honest. I can see why his first wife left him now. He was difficult. How did that manifest? Says Olivia. Selfish. Did whatever he wanted, had no time for others' input. But you run the business and the estate, is that right? He had no time for the detail. Someone had to do it. What happened after you went back to bed? Says Olivia. Charlie knocked on my door and told me that there was a body in the hallway. Charlie? Says Olivia. You saw him when you arrived? Charlie Hall? He's staying here with us for a while. Tell me about him, she says. A friend, says Gracie. I knew him in my 20s. We've kept in touch. I'm going to ask you something personal, Mrs. Tark. Is Charlie your lover? It's convenient. Gracie's eyes flare for a moment in the morning light. That's a yes, is it? I don't see it's any of your business, Olivia. Your husband is found dead and your boyfriend is in the house at the same time. I'm sure I don't have to spell out what the police might conjecture from that set of circumstances. We didn't kill him, says Gracie. An accident, plain and simple. I'd like to talk to Charlie, says Olivia. He's gone for a shower to wash off the dirt of the night. I'll tell him to find you. In the meantime, are you happy for me to look at the body? Go ahead. Gracie turns her eyes to the light as a marker that the conversation is over, and Olivia slips out to the head of the main staircase. She walks down the gold and silver curved sweep of steps. As she descends, she can see the hallway is 50 feet across and 30 deep. Alan Tark's body is lying by the main front door, covered with a crisp white linen tablecloth. There's a pool of blood that has spilled out from him across the black and white tiles of the room, and a hunting rifle lays 10 feet from him. Olivia lifts the cloth from the body and kneels down beside him. She pulls out her phone to record her observations as she inspects the wounds. There's enough light from the 6 windows along the front of the house for her to see the details. She presses the record button and begins. A man in his 50s wearing pyjamas. He is on his front, and there are a dozen red spots on the back of his clothing, which are consistent with wounds from gaming shot. So this isn't an accident? You can't shoot yourself in the back. There's also a blood pool, which wouldn't have come from the back injury. She leans over to see more, without unnecessarily moving the body. I can see now that his throat has been cut as well. That is the likely cause of death. His eyes are open. No other obvious wounds or signs of trauma. This looks like he was shot to bring him down, then his carotid artery and jugular vein were slit. She can see nothing more of significance and goes in search of Rachel to find out more about the events of last night. The woman is not in her office, and Olivia calls her on her phone. Rachel says that she's out near the barns, and Olivia tracks across the grass to the farm buildings in search of the woman. Rachel is walking out of the cottage near the barns when Olivia arrives in the farmyard, and she waits whilst the business manager walks to her. I have some questions, says Olivia. Charlie Hall, what do you know about him? Rachel smiles very slightly. A friend of the Tarks? He is Gracie's lover, Rachel. I'm sure you know that already. Do you think that Gracie was considering leaving Alan to go off with Charlie? No, Charlie's just one in a long line of slightly younger men who've been in her bed. Alan didn't mind. He knew they meant nothing. Gracie loved Alan. Olivia takes a breath out. What do you think happened last night? She says. You live in, you told me. Did you hear anything? I heard the shot when he killed himself. He didn't kill himself. He was murdered. Rachel frowns. His throat was cut, Rachel. The wounds from the gun are nasty, but not fatal. Did you get out of bed and go to see what had happened? Rachel closes her eyes, and Olivia waits for her to summon up the courage to speak. I saw Alice. Where? On the stairs. She had blood on her clothes. Coming up the stairs? Says Olivia. Rachel nods. And this was after the gun went off? Yes. Where's Alice now? Rachel shakes her head. In the house somewhere, I suppose. She's working. Why didn't you tell me this earlier? Says Olivia. I didn't know what Mrs. Tark wanted from you. Like I said before, this is their kingdom. If they decide black is white, then it is. And no one asks questions. We just fall into line. I can't report them. The Tarks. They've been good to me. I will, though. A voice comes from behind them. It's Bob Mead. If they're guilty, we need to find Alice, says Olivia. Olivia and Bob return to the house, but can't find any sign of the girl. In the kitchen are two cooks who say that Alice went up to her room on the top floor. They hurry through the hallway and past the white tablecloth covering Alan Tark's body. Then they go up the main stairs and around again to a slightly narrower flight that leads them to the second floor. Bob knocks on Alice's room. There's no answer, and he tries the door. Alice is sitting on her bed and reading an old copy of The Count of Monte Cristo. Alice, could I talk to you? Says Olivia, as they walk inside. The girl smiles, and Olivia sits on the edge of the bed while Bob stands by the door. Last night, when Mr. Tark had an accident, you got out of bed? What did you see? Alice slowly puts down the book beside her on the duvet. I saw him die. You had blood on you. Alice nods. Your real name is Elizabeth, says Olivia. Why did Mr. Tark change it? It reminded him, she says, of his wife. He didn't want that. He didn't want us. Us? Says Olivia. Did you know the first Mrs. Tark? Alice looks directly at her. She's my mother. And Mr. Tark was your father? Yes. And he knew that you were his daughter? And that's why he changed your name? Yes. Why did you come and work here? Says Olivia. Gracie employed me. It was the plan. Gracie knows my mother. They planned it to destroy Dad, for abandoning us. Didn't your mother divorce him? She says. Mum got nothing. She should have been a millionaire after they divorced. Well, she will be now. Gracie's going to give Mum half of Alan Tark's fortune. Olivia looks at Bob, then back to the young woman on the bed. Did you kill your father? I couldn't wait for him to die. Gracie and Mum will get the money, so we'll be fine. No one will know that I killed him, and you can't say anything. I know how the law works. I can't, you're right, says Olivia. But Bob over there is not bound by client confidentiality. And he just heard you confess to the killing of Alan Tark. Alice suddenly pushes her hand under the pillow on the bed and pulls out a long kitchen knife. She leaps off the bed and towards Bob, but he pushes the girl back onto the bed. Then Olivia gets the door key, and she and Bob run out into the corridor and slam the door shut. Bob holds the door closed, and Olivia pushes the key in and locks the door, as Alice can be heard hitting the wood on the other side. They look at each other. "I'm calling the police," says Bob, and he pulls out his phone. The Streete Files, a complete mystery short story, every Wednesday.